Candidates are interviewing us as much as we are interviewing them. We want candidates to ask questions.
When it comes to your recruiting process, maybe you could start by sharing like a broad overview of the kind of various different stages of a GoDaddy interview and recruiting process.
So typically it's going to start with a conversation with one of our recruiters. Our recruiters are getting a sense of your background and your skills. From there, the candidates, they move through a structured series of interviews. The whole thing is really meant to assess not only the candidate's skills, but their alignment with GoDaddy's values.
Melany Austin at GoDaddy, what are your top 3 recommendations for candidates who want to work at GoDaddy?
So first,
hello and welcome to another episode of Open to Work. We have another amazing candidate journeys episode for you today. We welcome Melany Austin from GoDaddy. Welcome, Melany.
Hello, very excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
And why don't we just kick off with a really simple introduction to you, your role at GoDaddy, and then we'll get into a bit about what GoDaddy does.
Yeah, so I am the Global Director for Tech and Corporate Recruiting at GoDaddy. I've been here for about 3 years now.
Nice. And a lot of people will know GoDaddy because they may have seen either your advert or registered a domain with you. But why don't you explain for the general population out there what GoDaddy are and what they do?
Yes. So a lot of people, like you said, they do know us for domains, but we do a lot more than that. We're really here to support small and medium businesses to really turn their ideas into a reality online. So people can have a domain with us. They can create their small or medium business with us as well. We have a new tool called Arrow, for example. Let's say you want to start a business, but you're not really sure where to go from, I've got this idea. People can drop their idea into Arrow, which is our AI tool, and it's going to help build everything out. It'll give you a website name, your logo. It'll help with your marketing, creating a marketing calendar, social posts, etc. So we're really here to help from the end to end for entrepreneurs.
Amazing. And so would you be able to share a bit of the size and scale of GoDaddy at the moment? Like how many customers, like where you are in the world, how many people you employ?
Yes. So we are global, of course. We've been around since the late 90s. And with that being said, a lot of our recruiting is done across North America, as well as EMEA and APAC. And with that being said, we do business across multiple countries. We have over, I think it's about 80 million different domain names. We have millions of customers as well across the globe.
So you really are the daddy of domains.
Yes.
Okay. And so it sounds like there's been like a real active move towards AI. Maybe you can share a little bit about kind of the future vision of the product and the mission of the business.
Yeah, so yes, AI is definitely a big part of our future. The tool is called Arrow. It's AIRO. And not only are we offering it to our customers, it is something that we have been looking at using internally as well as team members. And so it's very exciting. We have a tool that we developed internally, similar to ChatGPT, that we can use as well as employees. So it's kind of like walking the talk, if you will. So yes, we're offering this for the customers, but we're also very big on utilizing those types of things internally as well, keeping up with the times, which is exciting. So more to come around Arrow, but yes, it is one of the most exciting launches that we've had. Amazing.
And so getting into kind of you and your team a little bit, how did you come to find GoDaddy?
Yeah, I was recruited. So a lot of people who are listening may have been recruited on LinkedIn. One of our executive recruiters, she reached out. And I remember thinking, oh, this is funny, the domain company. And it was my first thought, similar to what a lot of candidates may think when we reach out. And at the time was like, I'm not really sure, not looking to make a move. COVID was happening, all sorts of stuff. did my research and thought, oh my gosh, they've come so far as a company. I had no idea that GoDaddy did all the things that we do. So I got really excited, was coming from a startup and thought that the opportunity to work with a mid-sized company who is passionate about helping entrepreneurs. A lot of my family own their own businesses. So near and dear. So did all the research and ended up reaching back out to the recruiter and said, sure, I'd love to have an informal. Let's talk. She introduced herself. She was amazing. Introduced me to a couple other people on the team, and it all just fell into place from there. And the next thing I know, it was official. And I was starting with GoDaddy, which was very exciting.
And you've been there a couple of years now. If you take us all the way back to COVID and to where we are now, what's keeping you at GoDaddy?
Yes, it's definitely my team, the culture, and the things that we are working on. We look, when we're interviewing candidates, for example, we're looking at people who understand what we do, what we're doing for our customers, for entrepreneurs. And again, with that being near and dear to me, that is something that keeps me here too, is all the stuff we're doing to help people. I truly believe in the work that we're doing, our mission, our values, our vision. My team are amazing. All of TA, all the business leaders that I get to work with. It's a great group of people. Being 100% remote, it's a lot harder to build like a lot of connections, which I'm sure people probably agree with. And we go out of our way, I think, to really ensure that we're still trying to have that camaraderie that you would get from walking up to a desk, for example, and chatting for 5 minutes. So we've really worked to create still that type of environment, which is helpful.
Yeah, it's absolutely kind of one of the pros and cons balances of working remotely is that you get access to this amazing, incredible group of talent all across North America, by the sounds of it. But then you also have these new challenges that are created through how do you ensure that you can build like genuinely good and deep connections. It sounds like that's something that you think about every day.
Yes, it is. Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so when it comes to your recruiting process, which is obviously what we're here to talk about today, maybe you could start by sharing like a broad overview of the kind of various different stages of a GoDaddy interview and recruiting process.
Yes, of course. Yes, this one's easy. We talk about it all the time. So the recruiting process at GoDaddy we've designed it to really be thorough, inclusive, and really respectful of our candidates' time. So typically it's going to start with a conversation with one of our recruiters. Our recruiters are getting a sense of your background and your skills, and then really making sure that the candidate or the person is the match for the role. From there, the candidates, they move through a structured series of interviews, which include, depending on the role or the job profile, they can include technical assessments, there's case studies, we have behavioral and situational type questions, again, all depending on the role. We also are really focused on making sure that we're keeping our candidates informed throughout. Timely feedback we try to be as transparent as we possibly can around the next steps, what's going to be happening throughout the process, et cetera. The whole thing is really meant to assess not only the candidates' skills, but their alignment with GoDaddy's values and our culture.
And so let's kind of pause there. Why don't we go right back to the beginning? So when someone finds a job at GoDaddy or you reach out to them, what can I kind of expect in that initial recruiting interaction? What are you looking for?
Yes. So typically the recruiter they're going to cover resume, of course. They're going to cover the experience, the skills, and then they're really going to be focused on that, whatever field that is. So for example, if someone is interviewing, let's say for a product management type role, they're going to really dig into some of those basic product management skills. We're not the SMEs in each of those job profiles, so we're typically meeting with the hiring managers beforehand to understand what questions should we be asking, what should we be looking for in those types of responses. And so we're going to have more of that general, less technical conversation around the skill set.
But it sounds like it's still something that is really worth candidates taking seriously and preparing for. Like,
Absolutely.
this isn't a tick box exercise. This
Yes.
is a genuine evaluation of the role.
Yeah, our recruiters are also responsible for moving those candidates to the hiring manager. And so if that initial conversation, if we don't feel that the person could be a good match for the role, we would decline them from that point or move them forward from that point. So really that initial conversation is going to tell us, could this person be a potential match for the position that they're interviewing for?
And actually, just kind of taking a step even further back, if someone's kind of applying via the GoDaddy platform, so they via GoDaddy kind of careers page, is there like anything particularly interesting that's worth calling out about that application flow or the different resources they should be looking at before they apply?
Yeah. Well, first off, I like to brag that we have a really simple application. We don't make you put your full resume in again. So once you upload the resume, it's in there. We have 5 very general, basic questions, and so it's a very seamless and simplified application process.
So I guess so once they've applied, do you use any kind of technologies to help screen the candidates out? Are you using any like quote unquote AI to evaluate or score the candidates?
Yes, no AI there. So we're still a little old school. We love what we do. We're keyword searching. So for example, let's say we have a job profile and we get 500 applicants. It's very difficult, of course, to review all 500 of those applicants because our recruiters are working on multiple positions. So there's more than just that one role. So then they're gonna obviously plan out their week based on what they're working on. So when you see the posting and you see that there's like requirements in there, different keywords, I always suggest to people to tailor your resume to those keywords and what that job profile is, as long as it's truthful, as long as those are the skills that the person really has, of course. Because what we'll do is we'll Command F or Control F, we'll keyword search in the resumes. Our ATS allows us to do what's called a Boolean search, where we can really define what it is that we're looking for. And then that's going to spit back out the applications that have those like the most keywords, they match the Boolean search. And then from there, we can go ahead and work through that batch of candidates that come in. So keywords are really important in understanding the job profile. The less generic a person is in the resume and more specific to their skill set, that's going to be very helpful for them as a candidate.
So Alderson James are one of the leading people and talent agencies. Since 2013, they've been responsible for over 1,000 people and talent hires, including one in a company that I used to work at. They helped me hire my head of technology TA. So I know the guys there pretty well. They've been responsible for scaling some of the most innovative companies in the UK and the EU. Also recently just launched in the US. So even folks in your neck of the woods now, James, can get involved for contingent, retained, and executive search. And they also now do embedded through AJX. So they can do it all. Yeah, and it sounds like in this circumstance, it's not kind of a natural language process search like some of the systems are doing. It's very specific around the keywords. So if you're looking, for example, for someone who's got experience using, I don't know, Workday, for example, which is an HR software, then explicitly using the term, you're going to be searching via the specific term of Workday in the tool, not like HRIS in general, to help narrow down the number of candidates that you're looking at.
Yes. Honestly, we're going to probably use both of those, HRIS and Workday, because we know not everyone's going to be that specific. They could type in HRIS, let's say the candidate, because it is more broad and they probably are more likely to be found in a broader search. So it's really that you got to find like the sweet spot of let's throw HRIS in there with Workday in there. I would suggest utilizing those common terms across the resume. But the more specific we can be, the better. But those generic terms are going to be helpful too. So that might be confusing. But again, as a person who does the role, what do you think the recruiter is going to be looking for? And throw that in there.
And starting with that requirement section, I think is really important. And I think we've seen kind of increasing amount of data that indicates that kind of those slight customizations and putting in one really good application to a role that you're really aligned to is going to drastically increase your chances of getting noticed. So I think that's really smart. And I think kind of if I was someone listening to this who's a candidate, we're using terms like Boolean search and stuff like that. And actually this term Boolean search is basically like, doing a very like the old school Google search string. So it's essentially using like SEO, like, optimization. It's going to be searching through specific words within the CV. And it's exactly how LinkedIn works as well. You do like, quote in quotes, like HRIS, and then in capital letters, and then in quotes something else. And essentially that will, it's pretty, but I get still how like a lot of searching is done both on LinkedIn and on, and then within a system as well. And so it's worth like knowing that on the other side, that's what recruiters are doing in lots of different types of platform. And so having your CV being kind of searchable to a certain extent is valuable, because it means that you're going to be coming up in these searches as recruiters are doing it, and might also be rediscoverable by the sounds of it in other roles, like as your search across your entire ATS.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. Okay, so we sort of took that the wrong way around. We started with the recruiter screen, we went backwards to. So we should probably now go to offer. No, I'm just kidding. So once you've so someone's met with the recruiter, and then they'll move forward and they'll speak with. It sounds like do all roles then go immediately into a hiring manager interview?
Yeah. So different roles across the tech and corporate landscape, they're going to go to a hiring manager interview. Okay. On the high volume side, they're going to go from that screening to more like a panel interview where they would meet multiple people at the same time. Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so if we just take that kind of corporate and technology roles, like typically how long are those generally speaking, and what is evaluated in those conversations?
Yeah. So each interview could be anywhere from 30 minutes to 60 minutes. It's going to depend on the level and complexity of the role, as well as what step it is that we're doing. So that hiring manager or business interview, as we call it, is usually going to be 30 minutes. They're going to get much more technical. And then from there could be what we call them loops. And that's really what used to be the on-site interview when we would bring people on site. And those are typically anywhere from 45 to 60 minutes. That could include things like the case study, as I mentioned. There could be coding. You could go through, we whiteboard and share ideas so that the hiring managers can see how you're coding live, for example. We do utilize HackerRank here for a lot of the coding assessments too.
Okay, so there's loads to unpack there, but I'm going to start with the hiring manager interview. So that is sort of like it sounds like it's a more in-depth version of the recruiter screen. So the recruiter screen is quite high level. This could be slightly more technical, going into something that only kind of someone doing the role would be able to know, and that's going to be slightly more in detailed. And then it sounds like I would assume there's also a bit of space for you to ask questions as a candidate as well.
Yes, absolutely. We want to make sure that we have an 80-20 rule. And so the candidate should be talking 80% of the time, whereas the interviewer should be talking 20% of the time. Candidates are interviewing us as much as we are interviewing them. And so it's going to go both ways. And we want candidates to ask questions. We want them to jump in, and if they're not sure, say, could you please clarify, or could you ask that question in a different way? Don't ever be afraid to do that as a candidate, because it's better to get clarity and be able to answer it how it should be answered.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's something that candidates often forget, right? It's obviously a very high pressurized interaction. Going into an interview can be really nerve-wracking. And I think the kind of classic mistake can sometimes be when candidates just start answering, even if they don't necessarily know where they're going to finish the answer. And so often, like giving yourself a beat, asking a polite question, could you repeat that? Would you be okay to reframe that question? Can just give you, or ask a clarifying follow-up, can often just set you up for success and give your brain a little bit more time to process it.
Yes, there's also, we've had candidates ask if the interviewer could type it into the Zoom chat. And so that's been helpful too. And so again, whatever's going to help you feel more comfortable as a candidate is ask the questions and ask for help throughout that. That's not a negative by any means.
For sure. And so they've completed this hiring manager interview. Let's talk about the loop. So are these kind of, my understanding, I guess, of a loop, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is that they're a sequence of interviews that are happening over like a shortish period, like within a period of time, rather than like one interview done a week, for a period of weeks, right? So maybe just clarify, how many interviews generally speaking, and when are they done?
Yes. So our standard are usually anywhere between 3 and 5 interviews. We try not to do more than 5 hours worth of interviews.
Hmm.
And so what's going to happen is we're also trying to get them all done within, let's say, a week's time frame. So
Hmm.
the loops, let's say you're meeting with 3 additional people. We're going to try and get those 3 interviewers scheduled, not if we can't do it in the same day, within that same week.
Yeah.
And the goal is, again, to ensure that we're utilizing everyone's time in the best way, not only ours here, but also the candidates' time. So those loops could go, like I said, all in one day or across the week. And then what we do is we actually immediately debrief after those, after the final interview in the loop. We try to debrief within 48 hours of that final interview happening.
We are delighted to be sponsored by Metaview. Metaview is the AI assistant for the interview process. Their AI records and transcribes hiring conversations like interviews, intakes, and debriefs, and then provides a perfectly summarized note of everything that was discussed. That means that you can focus on creating human connections with candidates during calls and save time on the busy work of cleaning up notes after every interview. I've spoken to so many recruiters and recruiting leaders who are loving using Metaview across their organizations. It's saving them time, but it also means that they have more data to make better decisions. So for every candidate and every pipeline, hiring teams can now make confident and informed decisions, and recruiters can finally take control of the interview process. The impact on candidate experience is also massive. Since recruiters don't have to worry about taking notes in the moment, they can really focus on being present and engaged with you. Forward-thinking recruiters at high-performing organizations like Brex, HelloFresh, and Quora are all leveling up their interviews with Metaview. So head on over to metaview.ai/open to work to get started for free on your first 5 calls. It's really good. It's one of the reasons why I really like the loop structure, because it means you can, you don't have like the influence of the bias of each of those people impacting the next stage, because ideally you're having them all really close together so that you can't be like, hey, yeah, Melany was amazing, you're going to absolutely love her, like, and that kind of can really influence your decision. I think it's such a great power of the loop, but also means that you don't feel as like a candidate that you've gone through like loads and loads of stages, which I think sometimes when you have like a 5-stage or 5 interviews is not uncommon nowadays, but it can feel very tedious if you're going through it across one interview a week. And the loop can kind of make it all into one structured and concise stage where by the end of the week, hopefully you have an outcome. Yeah, absolutely. And we want to make sure that we're moving quickly, because we also know that great candidates are interviewing with other companies too. And so it's a benefit to us to be able to move fast internally as well. For sure. And so you mentioned case studies, or like maybe that's a dirty word, like a technical assessment. Yes. So it sounds like, are these like across, so for let's take software engineering, for example, this sounds like you would do some sort of technical co-pairing exercise with every candidate who you're assessing. Is that right? Yes, that's correct. Yes. So for our, for certain levels, which depending on the level, the role is going to depend on whether or not we're doing what assessments we're doing, of course. So the technical assessments, those can be technical problem solving assessments. There's pair programming sessions where we're really trying to allow people to showcase their technical proficiency. The case studies that Turb, like you said, is some people are like, whoa, I don't know about this. But for us, it's almost like a take home where we're giving candidates a problem and just try and solve, and we're asking them to present a solution. A lot of it could be hypothetical. For example, we're giving them like the fake data to use, all of that, and then they'll come and they're really highlighting their strategic thinking in the case studies. At the end of the day, whether a person's doing a technical assessment, like a code pairing, or they're doing this case study, we're looking for like the creativity, the collaboration, and a deep understanding of your field or what you're interviewing for. But again, we're really going to adjust the focus based on the role's demands and how we are assessing those specific technical skills. I think it will be hard for you to answer, but generally speaking, how do you recommend a candidate prepares? Let's say case studies. Let's remove software engineering for a second. How do you recommend someone prepares for a case study at GoDaddy? Ask questions. If you're reviewing the information and you're thinking, I'm not sure where to start,
ask your recruiter, hey, questions, can you help me with this? Could you clarify this potentially with the hiring manager? And then also do the research. Go out, take a look at who we are, our mission, our values, how we're helping customers utilize the tools that we're giving you with the case study. And again, don't be afraid to ask questions. Most important piece.
Mm-hmm. And for the software engineering technical assessments and things like HackerRank and stuff like that, how would you approach that slightly differently? What's your recommendations for software engineers?
Yeah, so depending on what it is that somebody could be interviewing for, let's say Java is the skill set, I would just brush up on those skills. You could throw things into different AI tools and practice. And then I know in HackerRank, people can go in and practice their coding in there too. But I would just brush up on whatever those skills are there and prepare. When going live and doing the assessments with our technical interviewers, again, it's okay to say, could you clarify or give me a second? Let me think through this. We'd rather have you get it right when you're doing the coding than rush or feel like somebody was rushed or afraid to ask questions.
So, and then generally speaking, for like preparing for interviews, I mean, what is your kind of hot tip for candidates that are preparing for their interviews with GoDaddy?
Yeah, so I think preparation is going to be key. So as mentioned for technical roles, as I recommended, brushing up on like those core technologies or the skills that are going to be relevant to the role, practicing the coding problems or different technical scenarios. If someone's preparing for like that a product interview or the case study interview, I would think through about how you approach like problem solving, how you've driven impact in previous roles. That's going to be key as well, but really providing specific examples. Again, across all interviews, I would really be prepared to share examples on how you've demonstrated like GoDaddy's values, for example. So some of the things that we talk about a lot on our careers page or on our company site is curiosity, like owning outcomes, working across teams, or we call that joining forces. But we're looking for people who are not only skilled, but also passionate about helping our customers succeed at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. And then, so the questions that you're asking, you mentioned earlier that you run like a structured interview process, and it sounds highly structured from what you're saying. So these like pre-designed questions, ideally, that you're kind of the hiring teams working with the recruiting team to build these out. And I guess my follow-on question to that is like, are they generally around like behavioral interview questions? Are they like situational interview questions? Like, do you like use a specific like philosophy behind how you design those?
Sure. No, great question. So recruiters will meet with the hiring leaders and the interview team prior to starting the interview process. And what we're doing is we're understanding who's responsible for what competencies. So interviewer A is going to cover these competencies. Interviewer B is going to cover these. And that ensures that our candidates that are interviewing aren't answering the same questions over and over, that they truly have the opportunity to answer different questions, showcase different skills. And also by being structured and creating these areas that each interviewer is going to focus on, it ensures that we're interviewing everybody in a consistent manner and everyone is able to showcase the same skill set across the board. So yes, we do have where we create interview questions that are values-based. We have behavioral, situational type questions. And then there's the technical piece too. And those technical skills, that's such a specific. So again, I'll go back to the Java piece. If you can code in Java, you can code in Java. And so that's the easy part. But yes, there's always going to be those values-based, competency-based questions.
Yeah. And so once you've gone through the interview loop, it sounds like there's kind of a wash-up meeting, you mentioned, like a debrief meeting where the entire kind of panel comes together. Maybe tell me a bit more about like how you make decisions.
Yeah. So all the interviewers come together and we do debrief on every candidate who goes through a loop. And we talk through the interviews. We talk about, we're looking at the skills. We're looking at how people answered the questions. We're pulling up the hacker ranks, the assessments, the case studies, and we're spending a bit of time ensuring that we're going through and making the right decision, the right hiring decision. So it is a group decision, hence having the interviewers in there, and it's skills based and a match for GoDaddy.
Nice. And so the final decision, though, who's the ultimate decision maker in that room?
Yes. So the hiring manager is definitely the ultimate decision maker. But to be, very transparent, we are going to ensure that there is agreement. There could be one person who's like, I'm a no. But then it's like, talk me through why you're a no. Maybe other interviewers can help answer questions. Or if you didn't have the opportunity to dig in deep somewhere, let's talk about it. Sometimes it could be, hey, let's bring the candidate back and let's cover those areas that you weren't 100% sure on. But it is truly a conversation. There is a dialogue that is happening in those debriefs. And again, we want to make sure that we're all in agreement at the end of the day. Is it's a yes or a no hire?
Yeah, because I think it's always kind of a good reminder that these conversations are happening behind the scenes. Like once you kind of completed your interview, it's not that one individual who interviewed you is the ultimate decision maker, right? It's all done in like an aggregate of data that you've been compiling over a couple of weeks. And that debrief is essentially bringing that data together to create a full picture. If you think of it like a pie chart, this is bringing all those pie chart pieces together to make one full pie. Firstly, I like this sort of interviewing structure is like super common around the world. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about either GoDaddy or other businesses, like this is a kind of what most businesses should either be doing or should be striving towards doing. It's not how all businesses work, but it's a really good and consistent data-driven structure. So like it's a good framework to think about your role and your application. And it's great to hear that it's been done so thoughtfully. I guess my last question is, so once you've done this loop, is that immediately onto offer, or is there sometimes a final stage?
Yeah, so there could be a final stage again. So depending on, let's say there's additional questions or like, hey, I need to spend a little bit more time here. We're going to try and figure that out before the debrief. Hopefully that interviewer will say like, hey, could we do 30 more minutes? Recruiter will talk to the candidate, explain like, we want to dig into this area. That's where that transparency piece comes in. But we are trying to get a response back to the candidate within 5 business days of them having that final interview. And even if we don't, like hey, one more person is going through loop, they had to reschedule, for example, that could push a timeline out. We're going to still tell you like, hey, we had someone push the timeline out a little bit, just, give us a couple more days. Our goal is to consistently communicate, even if it's, I don't have an answer yet. But at the end of those debriefs, yes, we should have a hiring decision. Sometimes we have multiple people who are really great. And so what could happen is because we'll use the engineer across multiple teams, we could share that person's interview, our interview notes, their resume with other teams that we know are hiring similar roles. And so what we'll do is we'll reach out to you and say, hey, this other team has something similar. Would you be interested? So we're really trying to ensure that great talent, let's say we only have one role open, we want to keep them warm, keep them up to date, share their profiles, et cetera, across our teams.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, those kind of silver medalists, quote unquote, are still great great people to be hired into your organization. If I think the great loss sometimes is when recruiting teams kind of lose track of those candidates often, and it can happen. We're all super busy, but it's great that you can kind of think about how could we place this person in the future and how can we stay in touch with this person to make sure that if there is an opportunity that we can present it to them, because ultimately it means that you can get your searches done quicker as well.
Yes, it does. Yes, it's a benefit for everyone.
Okay, a couple of quick fire questions to round us out then, Melany. So what is one kind of classic mistake you see candidates make during the GoDaddy interview process?
Yeah, I think that one of the common mistakes is not fully understanding GoDaddy's business, what we do, or our mission. It's really easy for people to overlook like researching the company that they're interviewing for in favor of really preparing for like the technical aspects. But candidates who really stand out, they're taking the time to learn about how we're empowering entrepreneurs, understanding, again, our mission, our vision, those values, and really showing during the interview process that they understand all of that, like who our customers are, and showing that they care about the success of our customers. That's going to really make a significant difference throughout the interview process.
Mm-hmm. And then I guess if you are able to anonymize but share a story about a candidate that did really stand out, that would be great.
Yes, absolutely. We have a lot of standout candidates, but I think more recently, we had a candidate for an engineering role. This person stood out, I would say, not just because of the technical skills, but really due to the passion that they demonstrated for small businesses. This person actually built a side project to help a side project to like showcase that they could help small businesses really automate certain tasks. So during their interview, they tied this passion like back to our mission, and they aligned it with our values. So paired with like their innovative thinking, as well as like going and doing this on the side, really made them exceptional throughout the process. And so that one's the first one that comes to mind that stands out.
Yeah, no, it's funny when I ask this question, like how kind of consistently the people that stand out are people who've gone genuinely above and beyond to show that but not just above and beyond generically, above and beyond in a way that's really specific to what this business is trying to do and how they're trying to solve these problems. And it's something that I kind of coach candidates on quite a lot is you're not just here to be a candidate, you're here to solve a business problem.
Yes.
And so how can you make that leap? And someone who's already in that mindset and doing these sorts of side projects or whatever, they are going to stand out because they already are in the mindset of trying to solve problems for your customers. Exactly. And that's going to be appealing to any business.
Yes, I agree. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Melany Austin at GoDaddy, what are your top 3 recommendations for candidates who want to work at GoDaddy?
Yes. So first, most important, which we've been talking about, is research GoDaddy. Know who we are, what we stand for, and the impact that we aim to have on our customers. Second, I would say prepare thoughtfully for the interview process. Really understand like what we're looking for. We're looking for people who share our values and not just the technical skills. And then I'd say third, really show that passion for helping others succeed. We're here as a company to support entrepreneurs. So if that mission resonates with you, let it shine through in your interviews.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Melany. Hopefully that was valuable to candidates who are looking to go through the GoDaddy process, but also for kind of anyone who's thinking about their next opportunity and looking to understand like how businesses like GoDaddy hire as well. I think that's part of the kind of power of these episodes. And for anyone who's listening, if you're interested in applying, where can we go to find out more information about GoDaddy?
Absolutely. Careers at GoDaddy. We have our career site, which is great. Check us out there. We're across social, LinkedIn. And yes, hopefully we'll see some people who show some interest and find some roles that may be a good match for them.
Okay, and good luck to all of those people. And if you have any questions for us or want to hear more from our guests, then please write into us at opentoworkpod@gmail.com. We obviously have our community, which is supporting job seekers all around the world, and you can find that at opentowork.community, which is really worth checking out. We've got some fantastic resources there for any job seeker, wherever you are. So feel free to subscribe to this and also check us out on our Wednesday episodes where we continue to meet some fantastic VPs and heads of talent and people and business leaders from all around the world on supporting you and navigating your job search. So stay tuned on Wednesday for our next episode and we'll speak to you all soon.
Thank you.